Hey viewers, Crystal here. I've got my special little ladybug which I stick to my camera, and it's right where this itty bitty 1mm lens is. I found that in the last couple of demos I was looking at the screen where I could actually see my face, but of course my eyes were not then focused on the viewer. So in order to keep practicing and learning all of these special tips for YouTube, I have got my little ladybird helper up here. What we're going to do next is, I hope you've had an opportunity to look at some of the tonal scales, the demos. We did a strip of 9 starting from black, quite a range of mid-greys and then white down the other end. And then the second demo was the one with the mid-grey central cross, where the optical illusion makes the central mid-grey look quite dark if it had white either side of it, and then that same mid-grey cross down the bottom, when black was either side of it, it looked quite light. And so it looked like a gradation all the way down that central column, but in fact it was just the one tone. We then just rolled that canvas over so each end of the central column met, and you could see that it was in fact the same tone all the way through. The next session that we're going to do, this is just an abstract. When I was in high school, my teacher said, I don't want you to get nervous about painting objects. If I give you a figure, I don't want you to think, oh my gosh, I've got to get the head in proportion to the body and to the legs and to the arms. Or if you're doing a horse, you've got to know the anatomy of a horse. He said, as a beginner, all I want you to do is just match the tones and then to just place them correctly. In this demo, what we're going to do is a little bit of measuring, and we're going to have very sharp edges. Now in a painting, in a landscape, there's going to be a variety of edges. There's going to be sharp, there's going to be soft, but in this practice session we're just going to do blobs of tone, and they're all going to be sharp edges. It's another starting point. So let's get into this practice demo and see how we go. Okay, so what I have done is an abstract design, and I'm going to just demonstrate how to mix the tones and place them correctly. We're going to do a little bit of measuring, and that just entails using our thumbnail along the end of the brush, and I'll get in and do a demo of that one shortly. You can use abstract designs that are on a website such as Pixabay, which are free to use. You can use one of those as your template. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to squeeze out some black paint, and that is going to be our darkest dark. I'm just going to move that out the way so that we can just see the canvas. And all I'm going to do is do my darkest darks first. So we've got a very dark up here, we've got another patch here, pure black as this squiggle line down to here, and another part just there. What I can do is just start whacking the black on, but I want to measure it. I'm just going to move my thumbnail up, and from the edge of the canvas to where the design is, I'm just going to leave my thumbnail fixed, bring it over here, and it's about there. And then depth wise, I'm just going to measure that as well to about there, and then I'm just going to transfer it over. I just have to move my hand around the camera, but that is going to be around there. Okay, so we're just going to roughly block the shape in. So in an impressionistic style, we're not aiming to get it perfect. We can do adjusting. That's the beauty of oils. Once you put it down, you can play around with it. All right, so that's roughly that shape in. And then we'll move over to this one. So again, what I'm going to do is just measure how far from the top of the canvas it starts, and then transfer that over to here. And I'm going to need to put a line around there. And how far in, I'm just going to go to this curve, this inner curve. I will measure that to about that far, and then go across here, which is about there. That gives me a bit of a guideline. And it comes down a bit. Okay, don't have to worry about accuracy at this stage. We're just blocking in the tones. Okay, the next one we will do is this squiggle line. So again, I'm just going to measure. Yeah, I know it's hard because there's already black on the end of the bristles, but the very top of this is going to go up to the top of the canvas. So up to here, and then just going to measure where the high part is. That would be about there. And if I transfer that over to here, it comes to about there. I want to get the high point now. I'll measure again, move my thumbnail up, okay, and then go over, align this to the very top of the canvas, and it's about there. Then I think I'll get this part that juts out here. So I will go from the edge of the canvas. I know the camera angle may make it look a little bit different to how I actually see it from where I'm standing. And then just bring that across. And that comes to about there. So what I'm going to do before I do any more measuring is just with my eye going up now, trying to get a bit of a gauge as to the width. And this is where it comes out a bit. Okay, and then it comes down. All right, we'll do a bit more measuring now. I want to measure from here over to this edge. From the edge of the canvas, that would be about there. Let's bring it straight back across to about that area. We'll next measure how far that is from the edge. Bring it over. That would be about there. I also want to check the height now, so we'll measure from the very bottom up to that point. So from the end up, just to make sure I've got it the right height. I think it actually needs to go up a bit higher. Okay, and then that sort of goes in a bit, and then it comes out around that type of curve. Now just using my eye where we've got this blob, let's just go back in, narrows a little bit there, that curve is a bit wider. Just get the angle roughly right. Okay, I think this has to be just a bit wider. All right, so that will do for starters. Then the next black we have is this one. Again, all of the measuring. It's like, well, from the top, how far down do we have to go? We'll put the paintbrush up, and it would be about to there. Just have to go around the camera. So we come back down to roughly around there. Then how far in do we go? Again, wiggling the thumbnail up about that distance. Just go straight across to about there. So that gives me a bit of a guide. And it comes down. Bit of a curve. That actually comes down more. Okay, well, that's just a little bit more angled. All right, that's all of our darkest darks in. Then, as I like to work from dark to light, we have to analyze which are the next darkest tones. And that would be this one, and this one, that one, and that one. What I'll do is I'll just move this out the way for a minute. What we have to do now is introduce a little bit of white paint onto our palette, and we're going to mix a tone. It's just a little bit lighter than the black. As we are going to straighten up and crispen up the edges, I am going to leave a bit of black over here. I think that's probably enough. Okay, and we want to make enough that we can get 1, 2, 3, 4 areas done. Okay, I'll pick up a bit of white, mix it in. Sorry viewers, for some reason I pressed the wrong button on the video. What I have done is I've already put this first section in. What we're going to do now is jump down and get this one in, which is the same very dark tone. Again, I just want to measure how far from the edge of the canvas this protrusion part is. So we're just going to use my thumbnail again, and then I'm just going to zoom it over, and it's about to there. Then I want to measure how high that part is from the bottom. Okay, that comes up to here, and again going over to the canvas, I'm just going to put a little mark around there. Now this side, how far across is that? When you're doing an artwork, whether it's a landscape or a portrait, there is an enormous amount of measuring, that has to be done. And you do it from your standpoint. For me, I actually don't have enough tripods and cameras to set it up from a big distance away, so we're doing everything fairly close, but the whole process is relatively the same. So now that I've got the far end and I've got the top, and I know to come down here, I'm just going to place the shape as accurately as I can. But again, these oil paints, you can push them around quite a bit, but the shape is roughly something like that. Okay. The next darkest darks, this tone, this one, and that, 3 of them. We now have to mix those up. Move that out the way. And we'll just add more white. Replica back, and we're going to now put this colour in, or tone I should say. The colour is grey, but we're just matching how dark it is in comparison to the white. But on the same, like on the flip side of the coin, we're now actually, well, how light is it in comparison to the dark next to it? In painting, there is a lot of mental analysis, and that comes down to about there. Okay, it comes up to the edge. We can curve that in, and then all that central area is grey. Now I want to measure where this edge is. That is about that far from the edge of the canvas. So if I go over here, that would be there. Do a bit of a line across. Now we'll just adjust the curve. There we go. Pretty good impression. We've got to get the squiggle right here. And what I want to measure is how far from the edge of the canvas all the way across to that central point is. That's about that far. Go across here, which lands about there. I'll just put a blob. And then that comes up. Now I've just got to adjust the shape